I feel like every Star Wars toy I have ever purchased from childhood up to the present day has led up to this very moment. It is finally here. After a long wait, having backed the Barge back last spring, 2018, it has finally arrived. And check out the size of this thing. It is a huge box. I could probably fit like 4 of myself inside it. So you can see that this thing is double boxed. It is absolutely huge. It's probably about 5 feet long. I feel like I could fit 4 of myself inside it. But it's very nice to see that there are 2 boxes to prevent, or hopefully to help minimize the chance of any damage actually occurring. When you open up the inner box, you can see that the Barge is right there. There isn't any styrofoam or anything protecting this side of the box. Thankfully, there doesn't appear to be any damage. So let me go ahead and pull that out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here it is. The Hasbro HasLab Star Wars The Vintage Collection Jabba Sail Barge, the Khetanna vehicle from Return of the Jedi. We've been waiting a long time for this one, and it's pretty emotional to actually receive something of this magnitude in your collection, something that you've supported from the beginning. I think it's kind of like that with any crowdfund sort of thing that you actually support. You get to see the development process, and then you receive the final product. It's been about a year. And, we can argue about whether or not a company like Hasbro really needed to crowdfund something like this. I think there's definitely a discussion to be had there, and some have been having it, but in this video, I want to focus on the actual product since we are reviewing the Sail Barge. So I got to say that this vintage box is beautiful. It is stunning. And it is huge. No doubt this is going to be the largest item in my collection. And there wasn't any styrofoam in the box, as you noticed, but it does seem to be in pretty good condition. Over on the upper right corner back there, you can see there's a little bit of crushing. But other than that, I don't really see anything going on. But let's just talk about this awesome artwork that's on this packaging. But if you were keeping up with the HasLab updates, Mark Boudreau, who designed this thing and has been with Kenner all the way back since the 1970s, designing things like that very first Millennium Falcon, was on hand for this photo shoot. So they took the Khetanna, which you can see there, and they created a diorama, just like Kenner used to do back in the day. They created a sarlacc on the lower right, and they populated it with figures. I think most of these are from the vintage collection. And then, of course, you have the desert setting, which just makes it look really, really cool. It does say that it includes a Yak Face action figure. That is in there. Here at the top, you can see different scenarios going on within the Khetanna, and all of these look really fun. They're demonstrations of what you can do with your Khetanna. It says, gaze upon the desert sands of Tatooine from the cockpit, assemble Jabba's court of denizens, send figures plummeting through the trapdoor, guard forsaken prisoners in the jail cell, store weapons in the armory and smuggler's hatch, watch out for intruders in Jabba's well-stocked galley, ambush opposition with hatches to the main deck, raise the main cannon to blast away trespassers, and surprise enemies with a shipside sneak attack. And at the very back of the box, you have a very classic Kenner-esque image there in black and white of the Sail Barge. It's basically the same image we have on the front, but this time it is done in black and white. Now you will also see that it does say Star Wars The Vintage Collection on the back side of the box. That's not on the front. It also says ages 14+, and on the bottom, you get the Disney and Hasbro logo. Like the front of the box, it also says on the far left, includes vehicle, Jabba the Hutt figure, and Yak Face figure. Assembly required, no tools needed. There are also links to StarWars.com and StarWars.Hasbro.com. On the left side of the box, it is essentially the same as the back side in terms of it being black and white, and explaining what this product is. The right side of the box is the same as the left side of the box. And finally, at the very bottom of the box, we get a couple images of the Barge. On the left, you can see the Barge with the panels on, and on the right, you can see the Barge with the panels off. Jabba the Hutt valued money and power and enjoyed showing off just how much he had of both. The Khetanna, his luxury sail barge, was among the crime lord's most extravagant purchases, a massive transport that carried up to 500 passengers, maintained a crew of 26, and was outfitted with space for live music and entertainment. All right, guys, I don't know about you, but I am itching to get this out of the packaging and take a closer look at the actual sail barge. Now, you can see that my setup here is a little bit different than what I normally use, and that is because of the sheer size of this item. I have never reviewed a toy of this size. It's going to be challenging, it's going to be daunting, but we're going to do our best to get through it together. So let's go ahead and start getting the sail barge unboxed. All right, now to give you guys a look at the inside of the box, once you start opening it up and taking things apart, you can see that everything looks to be very well protected. There's some very thick styrofoam pieces. Even though there isn't a whole lot of protection on the outside of the box, they are doing a good job of protecting the inside. But that's still a bummer for those who want to keep it boxed or want to display the box. You might be prone to having a few issues here and there, as I did. But there's Jabba. And there's Yak Face looking so cool. And then, of course, the barge there in the center. So you also see this when you start unboxing it. Stop before unpacking. And it's basically your instruction manual. And it tells you about how to assemble everything. And basically, it just gives you instructions for unpacking and setting it up. And pretty good information on how to place all the guns and everything. And how the canopies come together. And lots of good details here, and I'm just now noticing I forgot to close the door. At the bottom of the box, you have this case that helps to support the midsection of the sail barge, but inside it are all the components and accessories that you will need in order to fully assemble the sail barge. Alright, so here's the barge out of the box, and I still need to assemble all the pieces to it, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like, just bare bones, unassembled. Now, the instruction sheet does mention that you should have a barge buddy to help you with assembly and unboxing and all that. I was able to get it out of the box by myself, being very careful, of course. I think it would be easier if you do have a barge buddy. So if you have somebody that can help you with this, I think that would be ideal. But if not, I was able to get it out on my own, and I have it sitting on top of the actual barge box for the time being. All right, so here's the Khetanna fully assembled. Now, this is quite a process. Not gonna lie, it did take me a good couple of hours to fully assemble it. Part of that was because I was being very careful to do everything correctly, and part of it was because aspects of it are a bit tricky. In particular, and I absolutely have to mention this to you, is that there are the steps in which you assemble the gorgeous looking sails at the very top. And those are the steps outlined right here. You got to be really careful. If you mess up here, it is very difficult to correct the issues in some cases. Now, particularly this step right here, number 2. If you put this part on backwards from these pieces right there, which I don't know why it's showing them as separate pieces, because it really is just one piece. If you put it backwards like I did, you're going to run into a huge problem in which it's very difficult to disconnect the pieces in order to correctly assemble them. So be very careful that you're paying attention to how these pieces are oriented and that you're doing it very carefully and correctly. And just take your time. Don't rush any of these steps with the sails because they are the trickiest part. And to be quite honest, the instructions here are not fully sufficient. They are a little bit inadequate, in fact. So just use a lot of caution. If you have any questions, send me a DM. I'll be happy to help. Other than that, it was pretty straightforward. One thing that is pretty cool about the Khetanna is that when you are assembling the little cannons around the deck of the vehicle, it does note that if you have the Black Series Vizam figure, that you can use the C-clip ports to connect the cannon that figure comes with. Now, not only did that figure come with that, but also the Legacy Collection Nikto came with that from the Jabba Skip Guards. So I actually do have both of those on there. Let's just talk about the overall aesthetics of the sail barge. Now, it is truly a huge, massive ship, as you can see. That's no surprise. This thing is humongous, and you definitely will need to dedicate a sizable shelf in order to display it properly. You're going to want to get the measurements for it before you buy a shelf, or they are in Hasbro's HasLab website. That's what I went off of before I got my shelf, and I'm going to set it up and see if it does in fact fit. It would be awful if it didn't. But yeah, it looks gorgeous. The sculpt is amazing. That is no surprise here. We knew from the early photos that we saw with Mark Boudreau that this was going to be one of the most stunning pieces of Kenner or Hasbro action figure toy history, really. And he really knocked it out of the park. The design team that worked on this really did a great job replicating every last detail of the Khetanna as seen in Return of the Jedi. Now, it has a lot of paint applications on it. This is by far the most detailed Hasbro Star Wars vehicle they have ever put out there. It has the most paint applications from any product that Hasbro has ever done. So it's highly a collector's item. It is something that you're going to want to protect, you're going to want to cherish, and I imagine it's going to be loads of fun once I get all the figures in there. But yeah, it's just absolutely gorgeous. Like I said, these sails were very difficult to assemble, but once I got them on there, I mean, there's no denying how nice it looks. The colors of the sails are gorgeous. The whole thing is gorgeous. I mean, once you have the cannons and everything assembled on there, the little clear legs that you can see here at the bottom, those are nice. They're a few inches high, so it does elevate a little bit off of the surface. Coloration on it is very film accurate. The hull is basically this grayish brown sort of color. And I mean, it just looks gorgeous. As you can see, it's a very detailed paint application, and they did a gorgeous job throughout capturing all of those details here in the barge. You have the golds, you have the really worn look to some of the parts that come on there, like the cannons are done in this very nice pewtered color that's washed over numerous times and really gorgeously painted. And all of these details on the barge are just awesome, awesome, awesome. On the deck, you can see all of these nice little details, these little things that spin around. All of them look fantastic. You can rotate the largest gun that's on there, the one that our heroes use to blow up the barge in the film. These smaller cannons rotate, and there are different posts along the rails so that you can move them around. If you don't want to keep them in one spot, you can move them around, which is really cool. The fins here on the bottom, they move a little bit. Of course, on one side of the barge, you have all of the panels that you can open and to put your figures inside. That is one of the huge aspects of this vehicle, is that it's ingrained with tons of playability. There are a lot of things that you can do here. You've got shutters that are posable at the back. And this is a really cool detail because we did actually see this in the film. You can lift up the cockpit and you can see that 2 figures fit comfortably inside it. You then have a sliding door that reveals a jail cell with a little door that slides back and forth. Super cool. You can put your figures in there. You can take them out. I really like that feature quite a bit, even though it's not anything we ever saw in the film. There's a smuggler's hatch that you pull up, and you can put more things in there. You can put figures in there. You can put weapons in there, whatever you want. You've also got a trap door on the very top of the jail cell. So you press this button right here. When you do that, you can see that the trapdoor opens up and prisoners can fall into the jail cell. You can see that there are 3 hatches that can open up from inside. So you look up these little stairways. There's 3 of them, and your figures can pop up from the inside. So that is a very fun added feature here, which is also film accurate. You got a galley where Jabba's chefs cook up the most amazing dishes in the galaxy, I would hope, or maybe they're not so amazing based on the things we've seen Jabba eat in the film. You got an armory where all of the weapons are stored, and then Jabba's dais where the figure sits snugly on his little platform, and you add your other figures around him. Like I said, plenty of action features, and everything here is so detailed. Here's Jabba on the dais, and you can see that he looks awesome on it, and he also slides back and forth, which is a fun little added detail in case you wanted to move him around or repose him with your figures. Alright, so let's talk about the Jabba the Hutt figure that comes packed with the sail barge. Now, for those who don't know, this is a repaint of the previously released Toys R Us exclusive Jabba the Hutt that was part of the Black Series line. That came in that really big box with the Rancor and several basic figures. And this time around, it looks absolutely stunning. And I'll go ahead and bring in real quick the original release from that Black Series box so that you can see the differences here. So there are a couple of differences other than the fact that the sail barge version has photoreal applied to the face. So you have much cleaner paint apps that look much more vibrant. If you look at the figures one next to the other, you can definitely see that. Now, one thing they did leave off of this new release is all of the drool that you can see coming out of the mouth of the original figure. This original figure was based on the 6-inch Black Series figure. It's just scaled down. So it made perfect sense that they reused it for this Sail Barge release, which needed to have that really accurate sculpt. Another difference you can see if we bring it closer is that they actually added mucus to the nose. You can see green mucus coming out of Jabba's nose. The original one didn't have that. Other than that, I think that the detail on this new Jabba is far superior to that original release. I didn't expect there to be a huge difference between the two, but there actually really is. And you can definitely see that just looking at them one next to the other. Just all the way around, it's just a really nice looking figure. The sculpt was already amazing. They just went a step further with all the paint apps and paint details on this guy. So there's definitely plenty to look at and plenty to love. As far as articulation goes, it is the same as before. You can swivel at the waist, if you want to call that a waist. Does Jabba have a waist? That's a different question altogether. He has ball hinging at the shoulders, ball hinging at both of the elbows, and then ball hinging at the wrists as well. Now do note that the joints on this figure are very stiff. So you do have to work around them a little bit in order to get them to move, heat them up perhaps, in order to make them a little more flexible. But by and large, this is a gorgeous looking Jabba the Hutt. Jabba has never looked better in the 3 3/4 inch scale. Now the next thing we have here that is also included in the package is the Star Wars The Power of the Force special collector's coin version of Yak Face.
Don't talk that.
Now this is a very nice recreation of the original Yak Face that came out as part of the Power of the Force line. Was extremely hard to come by. I believe was only released in Canada, and therefore to acquire a vintage release of this figure on the card back is ridiculously expensive. So it's really special that Hasbro took this opportunity to recreate the Power of the Force packaging and offer the figure with a coin. The figure is also currently available in the vintage collection. I have not yet acquired that figure, nor have I found Clat 2, so I'm still in the hunt for those. I'm not going to be opening this one. This one is completely going to be staying in the packaging since it is part of the Barge. It is special and ultimately is going to be quite rare. I don't throw around the term rare very loosely when it comes to Star Wars toys or any toys really, especially in the modern day, but this one's going to be rare. The packaging is very nice. It seems to be a very faithful recreation of the Power of the Force Yak Face, other than the fact that they did not include the French wording on there. It's only in English, but they did very nicely recreate this gorgeous hot pink backdrop and name pill around Yak Face. Image there looks great. You have a warning up there up top. It is unpunched, and it says ages 4+. The back also looks really nice. You can see that it is vintage collection 000. They are not numbering this one other, well then to say that it's 000 or 000. Very nice image there of the character. It has a little bit of a bio there on Yak Face. One of Jabba the Hutt's top agents, very little is known about the mysterious Sailed Murray or his specific connection to the crime lord. He could often be found hanging out in Jabba's desert palace, but was for the most part a very secretive individual. A member of the Yarkora species, Sailed Murray was particularly adept at getting information out of people and ingratiating himself with the likes of Jabba and other influential beings in power. And it does show you the actual coin and everything that it says there. Creature with long facial hair wearing a furry mantle, seen in Jabba's throne room and on the sail barge. May the Force be with you. Yak Face, bounty hunter. So front and back. And then you got the Disney logo, you got the Hasbro logo, of course. So again, all in all, this is a very nice card back, and it's a very nice thing that they included in here. Now, it's not without its flaws. Unfortunately, there are a few issues with it. There is like a scratch you can kind of see right there. There are very minor imperfections to the card back. You can actually see that the way that the bubble is applied is somewhat sloppily. You can kind of see the glue underneath it. Hopefully it doesn't ever come loose, but it is very visible where you can see how it was affixed on there. There's also very minor, like tiny dents on along the side of the card. You can see one right there as well. So yeah, I mean, I was hoping, you can see it's not even flat. I was hoping that it was going to be flawless, considering how special they made this out to be. And it truly is special that it is included, but it is not completely without it's floss, like I was saying. So would have been nice if it were completely mint. It's not. Either which way, I'm going to get a clamshell case to protect this because this isn't something you want to get damaged. It's always going to be a very special thing, mint or not mint. So I'm really happy that they included it with the Barge, and it looks awesome. On its own, it's going to be a very nice display piece. Now, the next step for me is to relocate all of these Jabba's Palace action figures that I have in this diorama I've been putting together since the very early 2000s using the old Kenner, The Power of the Force, to cardboard 3D backdrop and migrate them over to the sail barge where they will be permanently housed, I believe. I can't imagine I'm going to put them back in that 3D diorama, at least until the Jabba's Palace Adventure playset, Walmart exclusive set, comes out later this year, in which case I might have to double up on some of these figures or get more of them, but for now everything's being relocated into the barge. When this thing really comes to life is when you finally have all of your action figures placed inside it. Now, I pulled most of the figures from that diorama and got them set up within the barge in various scenarios, and it was quite fun doing so. What is cool about this is you can recreate the scene from Return of the Jedi with Luke and Leia and Lando if you wanted to do that, or if you wanted to do something a little bit different like I have here, at least temporarily, for the purposes of this video, then you can do that too. This is kind of more like a pre-Return of the Jedi moment, because we all know that Jabba used this amazing barge more than once. And it's just really cool seeing what you can do, getting the figures together, creating different scenarios, whether they are manning the deck of the barge, keeping it safe, repositioning the cannons, figures just kind of peeking out from the various hatches, Jawas in the kitchen, or, just whatever. It doesn't seem like you can fit the entire band from Jabba's Palace in here, but at the very least, I do have Max Rebo in there, which is something that was pretty important because we do see him in Return of the Jedi inside the barge. I'm not sure if the rest of the band was there or not. Doesn't seem like it. But then you have figures all around Jabba, and there's not a place for Salacious Crumb, so I just have him on top of Jabba's tail. It doesn't seem like there's a proper spot for him. What is a little tricky, and this is usually the case if you set up dioramas, is that if you have figures at the very back, if they fall over, then you're going to have to move around the figures in the front in order to fix the ones in the back. So that's not a specific issue with the barge. It's just something that comes along with the territory. But by and large, this is loads of fun once you get all the figures in there and have them doing whatever you want them to do. I think it's what really brings the barge to life. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so there you have it. Color me impressed. The Hasbro HasLab Star Wars Return of the Jedi, the Vintage Collection, Jabba Sail Barge, the Khetanna vehicle. That's a long one. This is a truly special piece, not only for the fact that it is quite amazing in terms of its size, its detail, its playability, and all of the action features that are integrated within, but also for the fact being that it is a limited item that you could only get, at least if you're in the US, if you backed the barge during the campaign last year. Yes, it did cost $500. Is it worth that price? I would say that ultimately, yes, it is. And again, not just because of how awesome it actually turned out, but also because of the fact that it is a HasLab limited release item, and there's not a ton of them out there. I just looked on eBay and they're going for more than double the $500. So if you were able to back it at the time and get it, then absolutely cherish this item because it is a very special item. It is quite possible that we are never going to get anything in the Hasbro toy line that equates to what Hasbro did with this sail barge. It's just really that good. I've been collecting Star Wars figures since '96. I know several people who have been collecting since the vintage days, and I can only imagine how much more special an item like this is to them. As I noted, I think everything I've ever collected from the Star Wars line from '96 to the present day has led up to this very moment in which I've been able to bring the sail barge into my collection, and it's truly a centerpiece. It's truly going to be the centerpiece of my Star Wars collection. And if Hasbro had that as their intention, then they fully succeeded here. It's just truly amazing inside and out, with the panels on, with the panels off, with the figures in there, with the figures out of it. But it's a lot more fun with the figures in there because, like I said, that's what really brings it to life. I'm hugely impressed with the way this turned out. And if you have it, I would say, cherish it, enjoy it, display it, and get the most out of it because it truly is a special item, and it's one of the most limited items Hasbro has ever done. And it's going to be one of the most sought after pieces from the Kenner and Hasbro Star Wars line, period. It's just an awesome item. I love it. I'm very happy that I added it to my collection. Yes, I had some issues with the assembly, particularly with those sails. Be careful with that. But beyond that, once you have it fully assembled and you're able to enjoy and appreciate it after it's set up, you're going to love it. It's amazing. All right, my friends, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think about the Sail Barge? Be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for the latest news and updates. If you're so inclined, we are on Patreon. Special thanks to all my Cantina patrons on Patreon. If you'd like to help keep the lights on by chipping in $1 or $2, well, hit that link down below. As always, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Victoria's Cantina. Until next time, bye-bye.